This is question number 35 from the June 2016 Algebra Regents exam. Just to save time, I'm not going to read through the whole question myself. We are going to go through the important data. So we've got a plane that climbs up to cruising altitude, and then once it's there, it maintains a constant speed. So it says after flying for 32 minutes, the plane reaches cruising altitude and has flown 192 miles. So a question like this, I find it's really helpful to kind of visualize and draw. So here's our ground level. And the plane starts at the ground and it slowly ascends until it reaches the cruising altitude. Let's say that's this point here. Okay? And then from there it cruises along. Now we know that, as we just read, it took it 32 minutes for it to reach cruising altitude. So from the starting point to here is 32 minutes. And we also know that it has flown 192 miles. Okay. Sorry about the messy writing. So the next piece of information is it says after flying for 92 minutes, the plane has flown a total of 762 miles. So that's somewhere further along where it's been cruising. Let's say that maybe at this point here. So we know at this point, it's now been traveling for 92 minutes, and it has flown 762 miles. What we need to do now is determine the speed of the plane during cruising altitude, so from here to here, in miles per minute. So let's do that first. Now to find the speed of something, speed is distance over time. In order for us to find out the speed during cruising altitude, first we need to know the distance traveled from here to here, and then the time. Now it's actually fairly simple to do, it's just the difference between here and here. So the distance, we would just have to take 762 and subtract 192, and the difference between those is 570 miles. And then to find the time, we're going to take 92 minutes and take away 32 from that. And the difference between those is 60. So what we just figured out is the speed would be 570 miles over 60 minutes. So we're almost there. This is the right answer, just not in the right units they want. They want it to be miles per minute. So in order to do that, what we can do is we can divide, just like pretending that this is a fraction, we can divide both the numerator and denominator by 60, and by doing that, we'll get a 1 minute, right? Because 60 divided by 60 is 1. And then to find out the distance per minute, we'll take 570 divided by 60, which is 9.5. So the speed during cruising altitude is 9.5 miles per minute. All right, that's the first question. Next, the next question is to write an equation to represent the number of miles the plane has flown, y, during x minutes at cruising altitude only, which is great because cruising altitude is easy, it's at a constant speed, right? We know that every minute it's traveling 9.5 miles. So to find its speed, or sorry, its the number of miles, its distance, all we need to do is multiply 9.5 times x, x being the time. For example, because it's traveling 9.5 miles per minute, if we wanted to know how far it would go in 3 minutes, we would just do 9.5 times 3. Simple as that. So that is our question to number 2. And then our third question says that assuming that the plane maintains its speed at cruising altitude, determine the total number of miles the plane has flown 2 hours into the flight. Now we can use this equation to our advantage a little bit here. We know that this represents the distance traveled at the cruising altitude. So we know 9.5x will get us the distance up here where it's been cruising along, but we also need to add in the distance it's already traveled from here to here, and we know that's 192 miles. So we're going to add 192 to it. Now I'm kind of running out of room, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Okay, so where were we? We know the equation is y equals 9.5x plus 192. Now, we're trying to find out the distance, that's our y variable, and x represents time. We know that we're talking about 2 hours, which is 120 minutes. And of course we need it to be in minutes because that's the units we've been dealing with. Now, be careful though, we don't want to do 9.5 times 120 because this is during cruising altitude, right? We have to account in the time that it took to get up to cruising altitude. In fact, we have to subtract that time. So check this out. What we're going to do is the time is 120 minutes, but we have to subtract the time it took to get up to cruising altitude, which was 32 seconds. Okay? So by doing that, this actually represents the time that it has been cruising up at that cruising altitude. Okay, so let's figure out what this becomes. Get 9.5 times 88 plus 192, which is 836 plus 192, which gets us our final answer of 1,028 miles. So that's our answer to our third question. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. That's it for this video, and thanks for visiting JD's Regents Preparation.